Throughout 2025, I've seen commentary streamer and video essayist Nicholas DeOrio transition his content and behavior into something totally unrecognizable from how it was in years past. I've seen the quality of his content and analysis sharply decline as he shies away from acknowledging any criticism that is levied against him. In this video, I want to break down some of the ways that Nicholas has abandoned his long-standing principles and show how he is both willing to lie for his own personal benefit and allow his friends to lie with little to no pushback. My most prominent criticisms of Nick come from his awful coverage of Ethan Klein. Nick is in a complete 180 on his opinion of the Kleins. He went from someone who would proudly call Eli Klein horseface to someone who makes pathetic, groveling sympathy posts for her plight as an Israeli living in the United States.
The first wave of commentary channels that started to hate us, they like to make a joke that I look like a horse.
Joe Rogan should give Gila back her meds. So you tweet this, right? And somehow you trended over what now? What was the story you trended over on the H3 Reddit?
Moses was being accused of sexual assault.
Come on, their thread was shitting on Nick for making fun of somebody's looks, and here they are shitting on somebody's looks.
And the
I know
best
he
part
tries
is
to
I don't
play it
even
off,
need
but
plastic
trust me.
surgery to fix mine.
Yeah.
I just need like a diet and exercise. You need a fucking... They need to call a surgeon to fix that shit.
Oh, Nick, nah.
Starts tweeting a picture of a horse, and Ethan adds his own context, which is driving him crazy. And it's funny because it's like a 10,000 IQ play. Hilo goes, well, why can't he just call me a horse? The reason he can't call you a horse is because you're fucking.
The joke doesn't work.
Probably flag the tweet. No, because you'll probably flag the tweet. I don't think using your fucking platform to attempt to deplatform someone is fair to me, and I'm an asshole. So if I want to tweet a fucking horse emoji, you can hate me for it. You can think
I don't hate you for it. That's cool.
No,
That's
no.
fine.
But I brand myself as an asshole. I don't come on this internet to be liked by people.
Participate in some really nasty stuff like calling Ela horseface and stuff.
I did do that.
That being said, water under the bridge. But I'm just saying there was a reason.
My God.
Yeah, but he thought that I wouldn't forgive him or anything, but I actually watch your content pretty regularly now.
I remember I'm like, well, I don't think any of these. I don't think like Gila Klein. I don't think Ethan. I don't think anyone's gonna forgive me for any of those comments or anything like that.
I think I really
And then she was watching the stream.
I like DeOrio. I gotta admit it. I'm a DeOrio fan.
So I had tweeted support for Gila Klein is pivotal right now. Look at the quote tweets. All I did was tweet out like support for Gila Klein, which I think is totally fine. I think you're a complete fucking loser if you have a problem with this tweet. Goyslop commentary YouTubers are a waste of oxygen. Fat retard crying about the ugliest bitch getting harassed. You know the world has to get nuked because fat retard commentary YouTubers think they deserve to live. Support for the horse-faced Nazi settler is pivotal right now. IDF sympathize. There's not like a single positive comment right now. I'm a Zionist now. Support Eva Braun. She's Hitler's wife. Okay, that's a good one. I'd fuck her, but that's as far as my support goes. You don't have to like her, but we should never support a Jew. Fuck off, evil genocidal freak. All you do is fuel anti-Semitism. Jew, no thanks, bro. Mumbly, unrepentant terrorist. I made a voodoo doll of Gila. I'm giving it hugs and kisses to show my support. No, she's a Jew. Hope she dies a horrible death. You mean the Raider of Ramallah, which was a... I mean, this is just like... we need the people to deal with her. Only N-words and F-slurs care about this. Yeah, I don't know.
Nick was one of Ethan Klein's biggest critics back in 2020. He put out a multi-part video series strongly criticizing Ethan for his unhinged behavior. But now, Nick will stop at nothing to defend Ethan, and we all have to pretend that Ethan has changed in some tremendous way. This leads me to question if 2025 Ethan is really that different from 2020 Ethan. Let's look at some of the main criticisms that Nick used against Ethan in his 2020 video series. Nick criticized Ethan heavily for using Etika's death as a way to attack Keemstar in 2020.
Why does this dude's legacy need to be subjected to this? Why does this dude's tragic suicide need to be weaponized and debated on a year later in YouTube Drama Exposed video? This just feels like a cop-out because he's gone. He's unable to speak for himself. Etika is unable to interject and let people know what he was feeling or pick a side. It's an allegation that H3H3 felt comfortable to walk right up to the door with because Etika's not here to tell him that's not true, and nobody knows exactly what was going through Etika's mind.
To this day, Ethan still regularly engages in this behavior. Back in June, Michaela Rains, the founder of the Save a Fox Wildlife Initiative, initiative, took her own life due to a combination of mental health issues and criticism that she received both online and in real life regarding the way she ran her animal sanctuary. Most of the online harassment she received was from Kiwi Farms, Tumblr, and a very inactive Snark subreddit, which only had 19 posts in total at the time of her death. Ethan Klein very quickly decided to make this woman's suicide about himself, claiming that her Snark subreddit was the deciding factor in her death and comparing it to his own Snark subreddit, claiming that their end goal is to get him to kill himself. In reality, Michaela's death had very little, if anything, to do with her tiny Snark subreddit, and likely had much more to do with the harassment and criticism that she received from other sanctuaries in real life, in combination with her mental health struggles. This didn't stop Ethan from turning the spotlight on himself in an effort to remove criticism of himself from the internet. It would seem like DeOrio doesn't personally agree with the assessment that Michaela's Snark subreddit was the reason she killed herself.
So yeah, a girl, Save a Fox, killed herself from on a Snark sub. It is crazy, and yet
Yeah, I completely disagree with this.
Reddit does nothing, and there is no account.
But despite boldly disagreeing with Ethan on this over 6 months later, Nick still has never addressed Ethan weaponizing this woman's death to bolster his campaign to remove his detractor base from the internet. Ethan Klein even made Charlie Kirk's death about himself. Within hours of Kirk's shooting, Ethan was posting Instagram stories blaming websites like Twitch for the shooting and saying that he feels unsafe due to Mike from PA of all people. Ethan will dig up any corpse that he can and make anyone's death about himself to get the upper hand over his enemies. In 2020, DeOrio was so critical of this behavior that he included a full Etika tribute in his video, but now he won't even address Ethan's participation in this same behavior. Nick also heavily and rightfully criticized Ethan for starting a trend of going after an enemy's sponsors online. In 2020, Ethan went after Keemstar's G Fuel sponsorship and ended up getting him dropped from the company. In retaliation, Ethan claimed to have lost about 80% of his podcast sponsors. Nick said that he didn't support the sponsor war but felt no sympathy for Ethan starting it.
He's apparently lost 80% of his own sponsors for the H3 podcast. Now, to be clear, nobody is sure if this is partially due to COVID or 100% in relation to his attacks on channel sponsors in May, but regardless, it's a clear case of karma rearing its head. I'm not one to celebrate money being pulled out of a creator's pockets, but I also don't really have sympathy or empathy for those who have made the statements Ethan has made and continues to make.
Ethan still engages in this behavior, except today he goes after Twitch's sponsors directly.
So anyway, shout out to Capcom, Chevron, and Samsung, who are proudly displayed on the backdrop of this panel, in which Arab to Israeli hummus brand, I perceive as Zionist or Jew basically. Arab to Jew tier list being enjoyed here in front of Chevron, Capcom, and Samsung, proudly sponsored in collaboration with Twitch. Fucking awesome.
I would argue that this is much worse because targeting these website-wide sponsors could impact many more innocent creators who just so happen to use the website and have nothing to do with the perceived anti-Semitism that Ethan is seeing. Now, you would assume that Nicholas, who previously was so principally opposed to Ethan starting a sponsor war against Keem, would be pretty appalled by this. Well, in reality, he said that Ethan's actions were probably wrong, but ultimately excused them because of the Arab to Jew tier list.
I'm sorry, dude. You can get mad at Dan, you can get mad at Ethan, and most of it's justified, I guess, about going after sponsors, but don't forget that Twitch had an Arab to Jew tier list. I'm sorry, but there's never been anything like this. This isn't comparable to PewDiePie on YouTube. Twitch let them host an Arab to Jew tier list in front of 5 fucking sponsors on the wall at their own convention, and then had to get bullied by social media into fucking enforcing their own fucking terms of service.
He provided no commentary about the potential blowback that starting an adpocalypse-level sponsor war against Twitch could cause for innocent creators, and actually quickly segued into a segment about Mia Khalifa.
Chevron, Capcom, and Samsung. Do you know that there is an Arab to Jew tier list happening in front?
It is! It literally is an Arab to Jew fucking tier list. Dude, could you imagine? It's like hard R to honky tier list. Dude, I need to see this. This needs to be a real thing.
I watched this clip and I'm like, what the fuck am I actually watching? This is mad. I need to say something.
True. This is legitimately a totally reasonable reaction to the shit you're seeing. People are saying this is Ethan's crash out. Have you read any of the Reddit posts or seen any of the tweets from this community? If you're insulated in like my sector or you're looking at any of his stuff, go to the Hassan Piker subreddit and just do a scroll. Even today, you're not too late. You'll see a bunch of people acting like this is their literal personal 9/11.
So they are very in touch with the Jewish identity. So we're going to have to ask them.
Wait, what?
What is Bunty King to you?
No
A person?
way.
Who is Bunty King?
No
Nicholas
fucking
DeOrio?
way, dude. Holy shit, chat. Pull this up for a second. We'll get there. We'll get to that. I gotta pull up Mia Khalifa, all right? Speaking of professional tits on a screen, pull up fucking Mia Khalifa right now, Mrs. PTSD from porn.
This is one instance of a trend where Nick refuses to engage with criticism that he knows he cannot defend. He even admits that Ethan is mostly wrong in his call out of sponsors, but still searches for a way to downplay any potential criticisms due to the perceived anti-Semitism from Twitch. A big point of contention in Nick's second 2020 video on Ethan was that Ethan platformed and legitimized the creator Britbong Returns. Britbong was a serial deplatformer, doxer, swatter, and someone who would routinely fill Discord servers and DMs with illegal material. Now, while I do believe that Britbong Returns is a much more detestable online figure for doing things like spamming Aiden Underground and Augie RFC's DMs with illegal material, a comparison can be made in the sense that Ethan still works with unhinged degenerates like Dan Saltman. Dan Saltman is a doxer, liar, and deplatformer who will stop at nothing to get Hassan deplatformed from Twitch and Dan Clancy fired as their CEO. He's doxed Hassan's moderators.
There's one of Hassan's moderators, the guy named Comrade Lamb, and he's been on his account calling me a pedophile. And I did a subpoena, got his information, his full information. I'm gonna, it was quick, surprisingly.
Wait, really? You can just do that?
Yep.
Stop! No.
That's lit.
No,
What?
you don't do that shit on my stream.
Gone after Twitch's sponsors to try to start his own adpocalypse, and gone as far as to contact the mainstream media and politicians in his crusade. Ethan proudly displays a redacted.dev sponsorship, which is Dan's company, on all of his live streams, and is in constant communication with Dan behind the scenes. Ethan doesn't just platform these degenerates, he now takes sponsorship money and endorses these people. Again, I'm not saying that Dan is as bad as Britbong, but any person who is principally opposed to Ethan legitimizing Britbong should also be opposed to collaborating with Dan. But DeOrio couldn't care less and has even platformed Dan himself at times. Nick, instead of condemning Ethan for working with Dan, will routinely use him as a scapegoat to write off many of Ethan Klein's criticisms. If Ethan says anything that is blatantly false or accuses Hassan of something out of context, it's always Dan's fault for feeding him misinformation. Ethan can never just be wrong or malicious in his framing of his enemies. There's also the elephant in the room of Ethan Klein's malicious lawsuits. It's no secret that I am principally opposed to these lawsuits, and I find it ridiculous that any so-called commentator would think of supporting them. These lawsuits are built upon a lie that Ethan needs to defend his copyright and are being used as a political weapon to silence Ethan's critics. And in the case of the H3 Snark moderators, these lawsuits are being used as an attempt to dox their private identities in an attempt to scare away future criticism. Ethan has expressly stated that he wants to reveal the identities of the Snark moderators to their families, schools, and jobs, essentially doxing them and participating in life ruination. His orbiters will use the Skulls and CPS call as a way to deflect away from this unhinged behavior, as if it is some sort of get-out-of-jail-free card that allows Ethan to do literally whatever he wants forever. Ethan has even outright lied in his legal filings, incorrectly claiming that one of the Snark users was a mod that was collaborating with Denims to steal his copyright. In reality, this was just a regular subreddit user who sent Denims a DM expressing that she should stream a reaction to the content nuke to avoid giving Ethan views. She never even responded to this message. Literally anyone can message Denims on Twitter, Instagram, her Twitch chat, and I guess if you really want to spend $20, you can message her on OnlyFans or Fansly. There's no guarantee that she will respond to any of these messages, but anyone can try to get in contact with her. Again, this is an instance of Nicholas blatantly downplaying and not engaging with criticism against Ethan Klein. He claimed that he would look into this if it was a lie, but then never ended up following up.
I think it's the Dan Saltman tweet is the important one. I don't know if this is actually a moderator. It seems like preliminary reporting is, yeah, this is an H3 Snark moderator. I don't know who this Dardis guy is, and I don't know how they got that information.
I just saw Keffel's tweet on Nicholas DeOrio.
Keffel's appreciated the shout out.
Does anyone know the lore behind this person? I feel like if this is real, like, not that, like, if it's real, because it's from the lawsuit. If this is actually a moderator, and that's actually the Discord tied to the moderator, this is really bad for them. This would be really bad for them. This is, like, either absolutely nothing or a complete and total nuke. If that's a Reddit moderator, if that's a Snark moderator, this is absolutely fucking worst case scenario for Denims MM, probably. Like, that is actually fucking crazy. They're completely deluded in their little bubble. I've heard privately from people, and I'm not going to name any names, they're skeptical about this, so I'm proceeding with caution. But I mean, that would be fucking crazy if it turns out to be fully accurate.
These lawsuits were never really about copyright. Even Nicholas has openly admitted this on Discord. Nick has outright stated that it would be delusional to think that these lawsuits are exclusively about protecting copyright. But he still has no problem supporting Ethan's blatant lies that he is simply trying to save the YouTube space from content thief reactors that all just so happen to provide harsh criticism of his political takes on the Israel and Palestine situation. Nick has perfectly fallen in line with Ethan's attempt to brand his detractor base as some kind of unique evil, when they are pretty standard A-logs that you can find in any large online community. Seriously, has the treatment that Ethan receives any worse than other lolcows like Wings of Redemption, Boogie, Ethan Ralph, or Chris Chan? Ethan himself will even use subreddits like Trisha Paytas Snark, and Nick basically runs a snark community against people like iDubbbz and Boblex. In reality, if Ethan would just disengage and stop fighting with his detractor base, so many of his problems would go away. Ethan is a nearly 40-year-old multimillionaire who routinely throws himself into the line of fire by giving his takes on Israel. I don't feel any sympathy for a middle-aged man constantly putting himself and his family in this position simply due to the fact that he's incapable of disengaging. Here's DeOrio describing this exact sentiment about Tipster.
Are these types the ones that are that don't belong online, chat? The tipsters, the Jalens, the flamencos, the people who have the lol cow gene, the people who constantly dive directly into the spotlight and just get farmed for weeks and weeks and weeks. I mean, you could give these people advice. You could give Jalen some advice. You could give Flamenco a fireside chat. You could tell Tipster, just let it go. But they're never going to. Okay? They can't help them. You can't help them because they're grown fucking children. But for people like Tipster and Flamenco, who are already in their 30s, approaching their 40s, at some point you just start not feeling bad anymore.
If he had any consistency, he would feel the same way about Ethan, that he has the lolcow gene and is old enough to know better than to keep poking the bear. But with Ethan, we have to keep playing defense because of a CPS call that happened a year ago. A call that never would have happened if Ethan had not revealed very personal information about his children's health online. No self-described commentary creator should be supportive in any way of Ethan's blatant attacks on free speech. Ethan fans and orbiters like Nick claim that he is only going after people who were malicious in their attempt to infringe on his copyright. That falls flat when he has previously described XQC as someone who deliberately steals content with his lazy reactions.
Take it back.
No, you still are a content thief, in my opinion.
Take it back.
No, why would I take it back?
Because if you're going to reel it back and say,
I just said that wasn't a good analytical point. I still think you're a content thief.
This would imply that XQC is also malicious, and since he essentially freebooted Ethan's entire video, wouldn't that qualify him for a lawsuit as well? It's so obvious that Ethan is just weaponizing the legal system to force apologetic statements out of his online enemies. These lawsuits are fundamentally built on lies, both regarding the legal reasons for filing and the stated purpose behind targeting individual creators. Ethan already settled with Caseytron and made her give some strange ISIS beheading style apology that he lied about and said was genuine. I also think he's quite likely to win against Frogan, as she also did a poor job reacting to his content nuke. Denham's reaction, on the other hand, shows both the hypocrisy of Nick and the lies that he's willing to tell on Ethan's behalf. Denham's provided a substantially better reaction than both Caseytron and Frogan. She even had a longer reaction to the content nuke than Nicholas DeOrio himself. Denham's more than doubled the runtime of the video with her reaction and provided commentary throughout. This is the same standard that was used to defend Chud Logic against Dark Viper AU when he filed a copyright strike for Chud's reaction to his video. The community, Nick included, argued that since Chud more than doubled the runtime of the original video with critical commentary, his video was not a market replacement and was fair use. When Denham's clears these same markers, the goalpost shifts and a new standard is created that all of her commentary must be perfectly factual and relevant to the content that she's reacting to. Nick says that her reaction was irrelevant and filled with non-related commentary and moments of reminiscing about past dramas.
That means I added 120% of the runtime in commentary, on average pausing every 30 seconds to add 36 seconds of commentary. Now, I'm not fact-checking this. I'm going to assume that she's telling the truth here. I remember watching her video on my stream. You can actually watch my reaction to Denham's because I did react to her viewing of it. And it was literally just like, she'll go on a random tangent about something that has nothing to do with the video, or she'll hear Ethan say a sentence and then go on like, remember this one time kind of things. So despite that she's saying that, I don't think that she added 130 minutes of actual content to it as much as she might have paused and talked to chat or thanked somebody for something.
This is hilarious if you've ever watched a Nicholas DeOrio reaction, as his streams are full of irrelevant cutaways to MCU references and memories of past dramas. I found several instances of this when looking for clips for this video.
What's the deal? That sounds like some shit in Family Guy. Peter Griffin's like, yeah, with Pearl Harbor. That's why I come out here and I fight the way that I do every single time. And they want to go, Lois Griffin, it seems like you've been winning a lot tonight. What is your driving factor? Oh, Peter already told you the story about Pearl Harbor, right? Okay, well, I guess for me...
I think the ego is kind of crazy.
Do you remember when you'd be like, oh, what are they talking about here? And then EDP would be like, Chris Tyson's looking at Lolicon. We need a better brand of influencers. And it's like, dude, you're a pedophile. What are you talking about? Why are you calling out Chris Tyson for Lolicon? And now here, Ms. Kiff is talking about why the Stream Awards failed.
Meaning what I have. Like, I don't care to grow too much.
You know what's crazy? His whole life philosophy comes from Tony Stark during Endgame. Keep what we have and get back what we lost. Like, that's literally Boblax's whole future is designed by Tony Stark in Avengers Endgame. Do you remember when Onision used TurboTax and tried to expose the government for, I guess, auditing him or something because he didn't fill out the forms correctly? And everyone's like, why, dude, he's like a huge YouTuber making millions of dollars and he couldn't hire an account. He was too fucking cheap to hire an accountant and just tried to freeball it, dude, on him, on his own shit.
It'd be the same. It's not
this
the same.
reminds me of the Family Guy shit where Mr. Pewterschmidt's like, Peter's making me do a Big Bang Theory watch party with all the guys in the office. Now I do them regardless because the show is really funny.
He now claims that he has changed his content and no longer watches full videos on stream, but I hardly see how that would save him if some litigious freak like Ethan or Dark Viper determined that he did a bad reaction to one of their videos. Denim's losing this case could very well provide a legal precedent that could be used against DeOrio's style of reaction. That reason alone should deter him from blatantly supporting Ethan's attempts to ruin free speech on the internet. Nicholas has also supported Ethan in the blatant lies that he has perpetrated against Denims. Back in the spring, Ethan used an edited and filtered video of Denim's chat to push the narrative that her entire community in live chat were calling for Ethan to lose his kids and for someone to call CPS on him.
It was apparently no, I think this is... Love made a good point. You said, is this every comment? I believe this is a live feed of the chat. This isn't edited.
What about the top right? I thought these were
No,
selected.
it's this, I think when you full screen it... No, this is an edit. It's a cutout of the full chat. It's just enlarged there.
Oh, really?
Over the screen, yeah.
Here are the first and last frames of the video that he played. I searched for the top and the bottom messages in my Chatterino history. The first one is line 14,472. The second is 15,428. And they're 5 minutes apart. That's 956 messages in 5 minutes. He showed 65 messages, which is less than 7% of the messages from that time period.
Nick nodded his head and pushed this narrative, ultimately placing responsibility on Denims for the CPS call.
A statement about it and said that she does not condone calling CPS.
So we're talking about CPS. One, I don't condone.
Yeah, it doesn't mean she's not partially responsible for this occurring by signal boosting this on a huge fucking platform when you're astroturfed by Hassan Piker, who's using fucking Bad Empanada as an attack dog.
Now, I can criticize Denims for not pushing back hard enough on Bad Empanada in this reaction, but ultimately I do not place responsibility for the CPS call on Denims. There's no evidence showing that she herself called CPS, and she multiple times stated that she disavows calling CPS on Ethan. As of December 26, 2025, Nicholas still abides by the principle that you are not responsible for every member of your audience, even if someone does an unhinged action.
I'm sorry, you can't police this. You cannot police an audience. The only time you're responsible for your audience is if you spread misinformation that causes them to go and harass somebody who didn't deserve it. Like, if you spread a false rape allegation of some kind and your audience goes and clowns that person, that is your fault. You have given them bad information. They have gone and acted on that stuff. And now you are responsible. But the expectation that you can prevent crazy people from doing crazy shit that are statistically going to be watching you is absolutely fucking insane. The only solution to that is never criticizing anybody ever again online and living in a padded cell.
So even if the CPS call came from one crazy Denims viewer, she's not ultimately responsible for it. While she didn't have perfect coverage of the Bad Empanada video, that doesn't make it right to lie about her and spread deceptively edited clips to paint her as responsible for the CPS lie. Nick refused to properly engage with this criticism on multiple occasions, originally stating on Twitter that the only editing done to this clip was simply enlarging the chat on screen to make it easier to read. hand-waving it away as a snarker narrative and claiming that there was no context manipulation at all, despite again only displaying a heavily filtered selection of chat messages. On stream, the context of this clip came up again, and this time Nick didn't even give a take or opinion of any kind. He just kind of trailed off and said that the objectively correct narrative behind the context of this clip was stupid and he found it funny.
And
no, Ethan, you don't understand. You manipulated it. You manipulated it by showing messages on the screen alongside fucking... it's so stupid, dude. The narrative behind that video is so funny to me.
Again, another instance of Nicholas not engaging in criticism when he knows that he's wrong, essentially just downplaying potential criticism for Ethan by hand-waving the context away. Nick failed to address this again when he reacted to iDubbbz's content deputy on Ethan Klein, stating that he knows that the chat was edited, but it was just the timing of the chat on stream that was changed and all of the messages were real and in context.
It's one chat on one stream at different points.
To make it seem like someone is coordinating an attack on you.
Love made a good point. You said, is this...
Someone is literally coordinating an attack on him. Absolutely. Unequivocally. And then he plays the clip where Ethan explicitly tells you, okay, that they clipped the chat and it's like a fucking cutout of it.
Chat. It's just enlarged there.
Oh, really?
Over the screen, yeah.
They're different, I think.
Yeah.
And like, it's directly explained to you in the stream what exactly this is. Like Love literally says
it's not timed the same way.
It's not timed the same way. Like all of the context is in the clip. It's not bullshit. Denims has confirmed in her own video that those messages did come from her chat.
There was never any contesting of the legitimacy of these messages. The issue is that this is a tiny percentage of the total chat messages sent during this time, and creators like Ethan and Nick lied to portray it as the sentiment of Denim's entire chat. There's only one other instance I could find of Nick addressing this lie after this. In Ethan's response to the content deputy, he outright admitted that this clip was edited and showed only a small percentage of Denim's total chat. Nick conveniently did not engage with this because he would have to take an L, and instead just started loudly reading his chat and didn't pay attention to what Ethan was saying.
Oh, so at first I made that mistake. I genuinely thought...
I want to point out that Frogan is more mature and empathetic than Ian. She said, I don't know. It depends.
Like
it's different ways.
The guy Keemstar Orbiter.
But then, like soon after.
I will say though, yeah, I didn't really see Frogan engage with that. It was more like every other person than Frogan. I guess I can give Frogan a W there, but it might just be because she wasn't watched enough to see what she had to say about it.
He then went into a Remember 2016 tangent before going back to defending Ethan for spreading this lie, incorrectly stating that he showed the full context of Denim's chat in the original clip.
The shameless lie that is immediately explained, even in the clip that Ian shows.
Maybe Nick did just accidentally speak over the context of these lies that he helped push, but I believe that he still needs to expressly address these claims and acknowledge that he pushed clips out of context to justify Ethan's continual crash out over Hassan and his orbiters. Ultimately, 2025 has seen the erosion of principles from Nick regarding Ethan Klein. He went from one of his most prolific critics to excusing many of the same behaviors that he once criticized Ethan for. Nick has become Ethan's largest orbiter and will even outright lie about other creators to benefit Ethan and profit from the situation. There's now so much money and clout tied up in this situation that actively taking a fair and balanced position would severely impact Nick's revenue stream. It is simply not as profitable or popular to take a nuanced position on these controversial topics. Nick has seen tremendous success in 2025 by becoming a Klein propagandist. He went from averaging close to 1,000 to averaging around 4,000 or 5,000 concurrent viewers. But in order to do that, he had to sacrifice both his credibility and long-standing principles. My biggest non-H3H3 criticisms of Nick are what I refer to as his cabal mindset. Basically, his reluctance to properly criticize his close friends and a sudden desire to shield and isolate himself from nearly all criticism. This can mainly be seen in his coverage of the commentator Willie Mack's show throughout the course of the year. Willie Mack's show received a lot of criticism throughout the first half of the year for how many feel he mishandled his coverage on Destiny's criminal allegations and legal situation. Two of the main critics of Willie were the streamers Queeman and J-Stock. These two have spent extensive time covering and researching every aspect of the Destiny allegations. So when Willie Mack put out what they believed was a poorly researched video, they were quick to hop on a call with him and debate over the issues they had with his coverage. Nick took great issue with this treatment of Willie and even decided to debate Augie RFC over his treatment. Nick was clearly very bothered about how Willie was treated in this call, constantly making passive-aggressive remarks and not fully understanding the points they were making in this debate.
Well, you talked about Destiny tonight. Have you talked about all the J-Stock approved talking points? Have you gone through the list?
What are the JStock approved talking points?
I don't know. I didn't pay attention to them, but if you didn't include them, you're sweeping.
The criticism against Willie Mack's show is all dismissible. In fact, I agree with a lot of it, honestly.
Which criticism in particular? Because it was like, I thought the Queeman one was a little stupid, but then I heard the Kelly Jean one, and then I thought it was really stupid.
Okay, I'll tell you.
And then I heard the J-Stock one, and then I thought it was completely. I thought it was indefensible. I think that all the streamer people are gay.
I thought the video. Well, no.
How,
let me elaborate on my point. I thought the video.
To briefly summarize, Queeman and J-Stock were critical of Willie Mack for priding himself on talking to everyone involved in the Destiny situation, but not speaking to some of his main victims, and not going in depth enough on the main allegations himself. He spent half of the video talking about how President Sunday and Beckett mishandled the release of the Pixie story instead of nailing Destiny down with better research talking points. For months, Nick played up the treatment that Willie received from this community, pretending as if he was beaten and raped live or something. Nick kept making the same lame talking point about Willie Mack being too much of a normie to make good content. He's just a regular guy who doesn't have time to worry about all this online stuff.
People go crazy when I say Willie's not like internet people and he's not terminally online. He's just like some fucking guy who makes commentary videos. And I don't think it's ever been more obvious than like right now in this conversation.
Ignore him going 15 replies deep with Morale on Twitter or cutting off his connections with Chud Logic over a minor joke at his expense. He's just a normie that doesn't have time to properly research his videos. Nick went as far as calling this criticism a gross harassment campaign against Willie Mack, instead of what it really was. Criticism of a large creator who uploads poorly researched videos that routinely get information wrong on complex topics.
Willie has been like a fucking target of like a crazy harassment campaign from like every other person online, it feels like, because he's a normal guy who has normal guy takes, who posts like, I don't even want to say surface level, but great introductory videos for average people to watch on terminally online internet drama. And there's just like this barrage of hatred this guy gets for like absolutely no reason, because he gets like minor things wrong in videos occasionally, which makes his entire backlog apparently like the worst content ever.
Actually, let's hear what Nick has to say about calling video criticism harassment.
Oh, you've misreported a story and gotten criticized for it? Time to pull the free speech card. Why is it harassment to not like a YouTube video? Why are you guys so fucking pathetic?
Nick has hung on to this idea that the anti-Destiny community, as he calls them, are so unhinged for the ways that they demanded that he cover Destiny that it is unreasonable to ever hear them out or respond to any of their valid criticisms. He used this treatment as an excuse to distance himself from the Queeman and J-Stock communities that he once collaborated with. This distancing essentially led to Nick entering his own fortress arc of sorts and no longer participating in confrontational content or debates of any kind. Throughout 2024 and the beginning of 2025, Nick had occasionally collaborated with Queeman and would even sometimes raid into his streams.
I'm gonna send you to Queeman. Somebody reached out to me and they're like, you should stop going to Queeman because Queeman hates you, Nicholas DeOrio. Queeman fucking hates you. Queeman's fucking chat hates you, and you're like a cuck for raiding him. It's like, I like Queeman. Queeman is friends with me. I don't care that he disagrees with me on certain things. I have absolutely no problem that it's happening. I think that if you're more bent up about it than me, you probably wouldn't be able to do very well in my position. You probably shouldn't really give me advice about
Bunty King to you?
How to handle my friends.
Now, not interacting or acknowledging this community is Nick's main strategic priority. When Nick cut off his friendship with Aiden Underground over a minor DM leak that wasn't even Aiden's fault, Nick went as far as saying, "My chief concern, above my friendship with Aiden, yes, is that I'm not forced to address this shit to my stream or Discord chat. This is incredibly weak-minded behavior from someone who criticizes others for a living. I have a general principle that if you dish out criticism, you should be at the bare minimum willing to take equal criticism in some way. And also, I could see if Queeman was some absolutely insane spurg with a minimal following like Mr. Sen, but Queeman is a creator that Nick propped up through 2024 and early 2025. During the Mudahar, Mama Max, and Bo Black's dramas, he agreed with Queeman's criticisms and even collaborated with him on some occasions. But now that Queeman has criticisms of Nick and his terrible H3H3 coverage, he writes him off as some sort of obsessive Destiny anti-fan, blocks him on all social media, and refuses to address him. Nick's sweeping in isolation peaked over the summer, when he outright refused to cover Willie Mack's slanderous video, "Hassan and his criminal friend dox and try to ruin my wedding." In this video, Willie outright lied about Queeman and J-Stock running doxing communities and harboring audience members who doxed Willie and propagated information about his upcoming wedding on Kiwi farms. If you want to see more in-depth coverage of this awful video, back in August I posted a video that fully broke down my issues with it. To briefly summarize, Willie presented no evidence at all to back up these claims, and it was even revealed that this information was given to him directly by Destiny. At the time, Destiny was trying to frame J-Stock and Queeman as doxers. This was so he could have justification to dox them and their communities as some sort of self-defense doxing.
I will dox if I have the opportunity to. Doobie shit is getting posted if I get my hands on it, 100%. But for Anna, like I legitimately,
what is Doobie's sin?
being in cahoots with all these fucking weirdo A-loggers that are obsessively talking about me to every other fucking person, and doing this weird pressure game in the background. Anybody that's part of like those communities, in my mind, it's all Hamas to me.
Willie, being the moron that he is, played right into this narrative by doing no fact-checking and just running with Destiny's talking points. When members of the commentary community had serious issues with this video making such bold claims and presenting literally zero evidence, Nick did very briefly address this on stream. He talked about it for 3 minutes total before he claimed that it was gay interpersonal community drama and only spoke about the video one other time in his Discord.
Now, why about probably 6 of you are in the stream? I just wanted to briefly talk about this Willie Mack show drama. I made it pretty clear that I didn't really want to do the interpersonal drama shit a couple of weeks ago, and up until this point, I've probably done as much of that as I possibly could. I'll just say, I told Willie Mack show that he should just drop this and he should stop. He should just leave. He should just stop fighting with these people. And in retaliation, a video came out talking all about these people. So at that point, there's really not much I can say or do. I gave him my opinion. He did the opposite. So now I think that him and Augie are gonna fight a lot, and I'm rooting for you to get as much content as you want out of it. And at this point, my understanding of how this is gonna move forward from here is I think that everyone's just gonna be awful. It doesn't really seem like anybody is moving into this discussion looking to have a beautiful, productive dialogue. It just seems like from here, everybody's gonna start sideswiping each other. Listen, I've had to put multiple friends down over the years. You guys gather around every summer to watch Nicholas DeOrio come through and assassinate another friend so you can tell me all for the next 6 months about what a huge piece of shit backstabber I am, up until the point where the next friend says 2 words out of line and all of a sudden it's banging down the door to go make me talk about it again. I think the commentary community can probably handle this one on their own. I wish you both luck in your forever war.
Nick has outright admitted in his Discord that this video was bad, but never acknowledged that Willie outright lied in his coverage and has not made any effort to retract his claims or provide proof. Nick has continued to support Willie since the release of this video. He's watched his Klein propaganda videos on stream and endorsed several pieces of his content. Any other commentator would be torn to shreds for releasing a video like this. But because Willie is in Nick's in-group, he gets a pass and will never be properly pressed for this video. Nick was always the guy who was willing to call at his friends and even burn bridges when he felt like someone was fucking up to a serious degree. Nick spent basically all of 2023 and 2024 ripping into people like Tipster and Boblex. So what exactly did Tipster and Boblex do compared to Willie? Boblex lied to Nick personally about his mental health diagnosis and publicly lied about Nick running the Content Cop Twitter page. He's a total loser who deserves to be called out for this behavior. But I would still say this is less egregious than Willie lying because commentators like Nick called out these lies and Boblex is a widely mocked figure that nobody takes seriously. Tipster was too eager to defend the wrong people and ended up making poor defenses for lolicon content in multiple instances. I don't think Tipster's pro-lolly, he just defended like 3 people who were involved in lolly controversies within a 1-year time frame, and it ended up looking very suspicious. In terms of commentary, he publicly cut ties with the community and would very performatively talk about how toxic everybody was. It was very well within his right to leave, but he did so in a very obnoxious and unsuccessful way. In reality, as Tommy C describes it, Nick hated Tipster so much because he broke his heart by leaving the community the way that he did.
Probably less Nick than any of them. And I think Nick fucking targeted you 4 years for a reason because you broke his fucking heart. And he's not going to say that, but I will.
If Nick was so willing to cut off Tipster and Boblex for these misdeeds, you would assume that he did not actively prop up and promote a creator who still has a video on his channel with over 200,000 views, where he is smearing the reputations of several small creators. As of December 2025, Nick is still watching Willie's H3H3 slop videos on stream and sending people to check out his channel, where they can easily find this video that is full of lies and misinformation. Nick has also historically been willing to call out commentary creators who have made terrible videos that are either full of lies or blatantly dishonest, even those that he considered friends. Nick entered a years-long feud with Technicals over his awful coverage of the Zero situation, in which he lied and mischaracterized the narrative surrounding a pedophile just to win a personal feud over his enemies. Before this, these two were friends, frequently collaborating on videos and appearing on streams together. While I do have serious issues with Nick's coverage of Zaptai that I might get into another time, I do believe that he was generally in the right to call out the sweeping for Zero, and I do believe that Zero is much worse than Zaptai. Nick also spent a large portion of 2024 calling out King of Nothing for slandering Ethan Klein in one of his videos, even going as far as saying the video was borderline defamation, and saying that anything less than a full video removal should be kindly ignored and remembered upon King of Nothing's next upload. King of Nothing at least tried to show evidence of Ethan Klein being an NFT scammer, despite how poor that evidence actually was. Willie Mack never showed any evidence of Queeman or JStalk running doxing communities, and is a significantly larger creator, making it much more difficult for these smaller channels to correct the record about how Willie was lying. So in the past, Nick would proudly jump in to call out and heavily criticize these terrible creators. Nick has always made a big deal about self-policing your community to root out bad actors.
Yeah, I mean, the perfect place to hang out if you want to be never questioned on anything, right, is to hang out in a place that doesn't self-police. And Hassan's community and that sector of like far left tanky adjacent people, there's no self-policing because they can't find anyone who wants to like nobody wants to make content with them. They're all kind of trapped in their own little bubble, and they're just comfortable lying to you.
But when one of his friends decide to put out a slanderous hit piece, Nick declares the drama too gay and interpersonal and refuses to properly engage with it. I'm not even saying that Nick needs to completely cut off and end his friendship with Willie, but it should be the expectation in the commentary space that if a large creator makes a very poor video, other creators should be willing to call out and publicly correct the record, especially if this creator is someone that you constantly promote and associate with. It seems that in his year-long quest to become an H3 orbiter, Nick has forgotten these standards and principles that he once had. 2025 has seen a great many changes for Nick. It has seen him abandon most of his principles to chase a very lucrative new audience that he will gladly push straight up lies for. Nick no longer cares about the quality of his coverage, self-policing his community, or listening to criticism of any kind. Instead, he would rather rake in tremendous amounts of money and try to rock the boat as minimally as possible. I, for one, hope that in 2026, the general audience will start to see the lies that the Kleins and their orbiters have pushed, and will be more acceptable to have a nuanced position on the never-ending war between Ethan, Hassan, and Destiny. Hopefully in the new year, Nick can reevaluate some of his principles and actually address some of the major criticisms that have been levied against him. But with just how successful his biased coverage has been, that ultimately seems unlikely. Thank you to anyone who watched this all the way through. Your support means a lot. Make sure to subscribe, leave a like, and follow me on Twitter or Instagram. My accounts are on the screen. Or if you want to join my Discord, that's linked below.